whiteboard. I think that's there. All right, my watch says 7 o'clock, so why don't we start off with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, welcome everybody to the December 10th NBC meeting. Today is, December 10th at 7 p.m. We have Phil Bilodeau, Zach Langlois, myself, Herman Pretorius, Terry Roy, Brad Briggs, Bonnie Bobian, Alden Dill, and Andy Robertson. Excused absences are Miss Joanne Bradbury, Mr. Bill Von Hassel, and Mr. John Dubiansky. We have the approval of minutes to get through for December, sorry, I guess I missed it.
November 19th.
November 19th, which I accidentally missed last week.
I would move the minutes as written.
Second. So that's a motion by Mr. Langlois and a second by Mr. Dill. Questions, comments about the meeting minutes of November 19th? Seeing none, all those in favor of the approval of minutes for November 19th as written, raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'll vote as a 5 yea. All those opposed, raise your hand by saying nay. And all those abstain. 2. So that's Mr. Roy and Mr. Briggs. Okay, so November 19th are approved.
Move the minutes of December 3rd.
Second. A motion by Mr. Langlois, seconded by Mr. Dill. Questions or comments about last week's December 3rd meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll also vote for 6. All those opposed? All those abstain? 2. Mr. Briggs and Mr. Roy. Okay, so not on the agenda, and something that I'd like to address this week are two pieces of NBC policy. So to reiterate about personal comments, I'd like to encourage the NBC to restrain personal comments and address all personal comments at the citizens' comments table at the end of the agenda. So please continue to remain respectful while your time is here at the board. And the second piece, or I guess maybe two more. The second piece would be that I'd like to encourage the NBC to also remember that there's a policy that we've adopted to remember to wait to be addressed in order to either address the board or address the people at the citizens' comments in a more orderly fashion. So please continue to do that. And for citizens' comments today and going forward, I'd like to be consistent with and be respectful to other people that may have citizens' comments, and I would generally like to restrain the citizens' comments or to a limit of 5 minutes. I think that if there's an important dialogue and it exceeds 5 minutes, we can address the board and question the board to continue to allow that conversation to go. But if it's not a conversation, then I'd like to adopt a 5-minute policy or restrict that for 5 minutes. Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that typically for citizens' comments, these meetings they're open to the public certainly, but they are work sessions for the budget committee, and I would really encourage the budget committee not to get into a dialogue or a conversation during citizens' comments. If citizens want to make a comment and it's something that can be answered quickly and easily, at your discretion, by all means, but I know certainly the Board of Selectmen has been encouraged by Town Council not to engage in extensive dialogue, and I've certainly seen at public meetings where it can get away from you quickly if you don't just, accept the comment and thank you for your comments and move along. Just something to keep in mind this year.
Excellent.
deal with people.
Thank you very much. All right, so discussion of town and school budget. We'll start with town. We got a couple of things to cover. I know, Mr. Robertson, you passed out a couple of new pieces of paper.
Yeah, what I handed out was an updated fire and rescue budget, an updated parks and rec budget. There were minor changes made to those budgets. We've got the building inspector budget, which was corrected. There was a typographical error in the original budget material you had that showed a 32% increase in the building inspector's salary. And we had inadvertently added what was his transfer station segment back into the building inspector as well. So we, unfortunately for Mr. Pelletier, did not approve a 32% raise for the building inspector, and we went back in and corrected that number, so. And then there's a new totals page, which is tentative, depending on, the action of this board
Okay.
this evening or moving forward, so.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we'll get to library first and then building department. Is there I know we received some school budget information today.
Yeah, so everybody has a copy of the school's budget binder in front of them. There's also a copy of the new para contract. I think after we finish up with the town stuff, if we can, I'd like to have Nate Oxnard, who was one of our negotiators for the paras, discuss the contract. And then we have some staff from the school and the SAU office to start answering and fielding any potential questions that may come up. I've got some other information I can provide, but probably best to do it when we dig into the budget.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so moving right into the kind of last items for the town budget. We'll start off with the library.
Mr.
Yeah. I would move the library budget in the amount of $116,635.
All right, so that's page 69.
It is.
Okay, so that's a motion by
Second.
Mr. Robertson and seconded by Mr. Langlois.
And I would note that Candace Yost, the town librarian, is here, as well as a number of the trustees of the library, and I would defer to them for specifics.
Is it possible for Ms. Yost to kind of give us a rundown of the budget at the citizens' comments table, please?
Yes, and we also, we met last night, we made a slight adjustment or so, I apologize. But I have new copies
Yes,
here.
thank you.
Is the adjustment up or down, Candace?
So you said 116?
635 was the figure I moved.
Went down.
Went up 117.91.
If you've got a new total, I'll amend my motion.
I think that's it, the second
I see a 117,091 bottom line number.
If the second is agreeable, I would amend my motion to the $117,091 amount for the library budget.
That is fine.
Okay, let's just see where that changes. So I see a change on line 390 from 910 to 930.
Yes,
And the amend, I see a 7249 on line 399. 2400, 1766, 2400, 2800, 15.5, 1500, 750, 11. So it's just those two line items that appear to be changed.
yes.
Okay.
So the 390 line, we added in some funds for mileage, just going to professional conferences after I went up to Plymouth, New Hampshire a couple times. And also for trustees going to conferences. And then for the 399 line, the downloadable books consortium that New Hampshire does, they raised their fees substantially, so it's up from $855 to $1277. But that's actually good because we'll have more books to choose from, less wait time, and a lot of our patrons use it, so we feel it's worth the increase. And let's see, other change. I'm sorry, remind me the other line you just said.
I only saw changes in
I
those
think
two.
those were the only two.
Can you perhaps
Does that make sense?
provide maybe some clarity or a description on some of the just larger increases that we see here from year to year? You know, I see on the maintenance and repair, you know, the proposed budget has doubled from 1,200 to 2,400, from 2019 to 2020. And then a couple roughly 15% increases on maintenance and books.
Absolutely. So as far as maintenance and books, there's a slight increase because we have to have an annual lift maintenance and inspection. We need that lift.
That's for the elevator and the.
Yes.
Right.
Lift, kind of British sounding. So that went up $100 a year. And library processing, processing supplies continue to go up in price through our suppliers, and also we are having more books, so then we need more book covers and stickers and all that. And as far as the building maintenance, there's just been a line that was added in last year when the budget was prepared for other things, because we only have the roof and the furnace, so if anything else needs to be fixed in the building, we didn't have anything there.
Yeah, Mr. Robertson.
And I know that the library, as a building, was part of the Primex inspection that we had done to all the town-owned properties, and there were some items and issues that I know the town was made aware of, and the library trustees and the librarian were made aware of with regard to that. And I would also mention keep your fingers crossed that the library roof needs no maintenance, because even replacing a few of the slate tiles would completely blow the maintenance budget that we have for the library.
Any questions for Ms. Yost? Yeah, Mr. Roy.
I'm looking at the line item, the annual slate roof inspection. Does that mean we pay $4,000 a year to have the roof inspected?
That's 1,200 on that. Okay, it went up.
Where are you seeing this?
Oh, I'm sorry, I see
Mr. Roy?
plus 4,000 on the third line,
Third line on what sheet?
number 430.
430, okay.
Am I reading it wrong? It was 1,200.
Now it's 2,400.
Did I make a
That
mistake?
includes, my recollection is that includes repair and maintenance to that roof as well. It's inspected, and it typically needs some minor adjustment and repair on an annual basis.
Okay, so just, it was 1,200, now it's 5,200. It's a $4,000 increase. Is that, am I reading it right or wrong?
Let me see.
I'm seeing
Line
it as a-
430.
Well, that's why we have a bunch of explanations, because these two say 1,200.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
so-
looking at the 1,200 to
1,200 was the year, last year's, right? And
On these,
and 2,400 under.
this is the one we got tonight.
yeah, because they gave out other ones.
Yeah, Ms. Yost, maybe it's worth commenting on, we got two sheets of paper here.
Yes.
One looks like the requested, you know, kind of line by line breakout.
Mhm.
And then the other here is the proposed budget, you know, that says it's prepared by you.
Yeah.
I see line 430, and those correspond to line numbers here. But on line 430, under maintenance repair, the bottom line total is 2,400 on the requested library budget line-by-line breakout. And on this one that looks, the one that was prepared by you, it says line 430 is 5,200, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yes, it should not be 5,200. I don't have a good explanation for that error.
Okay, so should that 5,200 be 2,400, and the delta should be plus 1,200?
Yes, absolutely. This is certainly correct, this page here.
Okay.
Apologies.
Thank you.
Good
Yeah.
catch.
Too much stuff to hand out.
Seemed like a lot to have the roof looked at, that's all.
Good
So,
catch.
Okay. I guess, I'm 42, okay. Yeah, Mr. Dill, sorry, I'm trying to work out,
Are you still on that?
well, I'm trying to work out maybe math in my head here, which might not be good late at night, but there's a total change here on your sheet of 10,200. And if we take that 2,400 off, roughly, that delta,
Mhm.
right, that brings that number to roughly delta change of like 6 or 7K.
Yeah.
And I see the increase from the breakout lines here to the lines here of only about $1,000, less than $1,000. Are there, I guess, is it worth going line by line through these two? Which one of these sheets do you think is more accurate?
I would say this one is the most accurate.
Okay,
This is the one we went over in the most detail, and this one was more at the end.
okay, okay.
And that one gives 116.
So 117,091 is the proposed budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Will we get them sorted and clarified before we vote on them?
Well, I think
So we're working off,
the clarification is that this one is the accurate line-by-line breakout. Right, that the two changes are only in line 390 and 399.
Yes.
Okay,
And we're approving the bottom line anyway. So,
that's fair.
back to my other question of just, could you speak to the part-time employee increase for 2,400?
Absolutely. So there was the 2% cost of living increase, and then what we did is, since the trustees and I talked, and we decided that these two positions were comparable, and they were making slightly different amounts. The employee in question who did get the raise has been with the library for 10 years, and her duties were certainly equal to the other assistants, so it didn't seem fair to pay one more.
Any more questions for Ms. Yost? All right, seeing none. All right, all those in favor of a library bottom line budget of 117,091, raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, unanimous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ms. Yost, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, Mr. Pelletier for Building Department, line 37, or page 37, which has been corrected from last week, as Mr. Robertson has addressed. Hi, Mr. Pelletier.
Hello,
How are you?
fine.
Good.
It's been corrected. I'm not sure as I necessarily have the correction.
So we gave you a 30% increase and then took it away.
Took it away,
Yeah, without you even knowing about it, but,
so.
oh yeah, Andy took it away. Yeah.
I'll deal with that at a later date.
We'll begin any permits for a while. I would make a motion to move the building inspection budget in the amount of $53,623.
second.
All right, so that is a motion by Mr. Robertson and a second by Mr. Langlois. Mr. Pelletier, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a rundown of the building inspection.
Well, other than the wage increase, it's unchanged.
Other than, what about, well, vehicle repair?
Well, the vehicle is 12 years old.
Okay,
So I did have some repairs this year on it, and I added some to that line anticipating that there are issues starting to develop with the vehicle. So I added some money in the event that I have additional problems with it again this year. I probably will have to put another set of, at least one pair of tires on it before the year is out. And I did replace the front wheel bearing, and it's gonna need brakes. I was informed probably sometimes this summer. So,
can you comment on roughly how old that vehicle is?
12 years.
Okay,
It's an '07,
With how many miles on it?
35,000.
okay.
That was an upgrade from a very well-used police cruiser
I,
we lost the door on.
my question's more for you, Mr. Robertson, I guess, is we seem to have a lot of aging vehicles, to include the chief's fire truck. Is that, although 35,000 miles is not a lot of miles on a 12-year-old car, are we concerned with degraded vehicles in this town?
I'd say the Board of Selectmen is definitely concerned about the fire chief's degraded vehicle because of its age and the number of miles it has on it. And we certainly are concerned with regard to Mr. Pelletier's safety as well, but given the mileage and his reports on how the vehicle is performing, we're comfortable with it as
I mean,
is.
unless the vehicle falls out from under me, I'm good with it. at this point in time. Rot will do it in before, I think before it wears out, rot will determine its death.
Sounds
It
like a
is
New
New
England
England.
car. All right, any other questions on building inspection?
If this was already addressed, the increase in the, no, disregard, I thought it was last year, the legal. Disregard what you.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of a building inspection budget of $53,623, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, 7-0. Okay, transfer station, lines 54 through 59, or pages 54 through 59.
Okay,
Let me move that
Hold
amount,
on
Rick,
one second.
before we-
Mr. Pelletier.
You wanna start at
If I
54?
could move the transfer station budget in the amount of, let me make sure I get the right total here. It's like $81,260. Actually, that can't be right.
See it, I see on 59,
Yeah,
288.2. Which is 268.
200, I would, if I could start over, I would like to move the transfer budget in the amount of $268,002.
Second.
all right, so that's a motion by Mr. Robertson, second by Mr. Langlois, for a total of $268,002. Mr. Pelletier?
again, the vast majority of changes are all reflected in disposal of product. Our contracts have built-in increases, which we have to deal with every year. Also, recyclables are basically, other than scrap metal and tin, we are currently paying to dispose of all recyclables. The market is completely dead. We're paying to dispose of paper, we're paying to dispose of cardboard. Paper and cardboard, we're now paying $10 a ton to dispose of it, rather than a few years ago, we were receiving as high as 200 and something a ton. Plastics, we're paying about $15 a ton to dispose of it. Glass, we're paying to dispose of it. We're paying to dispose of everything. And the budget has been adjusted, hopefully appropriately, to cover these changes where it's a constantly fluctuating and changing market.
Can you provide just a quick comment on the heavy equipment loader increase from 7,700 to 15,000? That would be page 56, line 740. Are we expecting a large maintenance on that loader?
I
this
am
year?
probably gonna replace tires.
Okay,
You know, like, I've gotten anywhere from 3 to 4,500 a tire.
wow,
Those are radial, obviously large, heavy tires.
yep,
And, I have 2 that keep going flat on me. That
okay,
I've had repaired a number of times, and I've been advised by a tire company that we probably will have to replace them.
okay.
And I believe I've added in a new container, that's loader and heavy equipment, right?
Yes,
I think I've added in another container this year.
okay,
Containers take a beating, they run between 5,000 and 6,000,
okay,
okay? And based on the amount of handling and pushing them around, they do have a limited life expectancy.
yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Robertson.
just in your backup, just
Oh.
exactly what Rick has said. You've got 50-yard container, you've got annual service for the compactor, as well as annual service for the loader, and he's estimated 2 tires at a $4,000 amount.
Okay. And just on the, just clarity on the part-time employee as well, line 111. It looks like the full-time employee is a COLA adjustment. Line 111, the part-time employee adjustment, are you looking to increase hours for part-time employees?
No,
Is that 10% anticipated to be a COLA adjustment as well? It's up 10% this year. from a proposed 64,000 to 70.2K.
Part of that is certainly the COLA.
Yeah, totally understood. It's, in the backup here, it doesn't show, you know, I guess previous hours, if it's an hour, a proposed hour adjustment for
Okay.
the temporary, or for the part-time employees.
The hours, actually, I have not changed their hours. I have a figure of 72.44.
We have 70,244.
That's what I have.
Yeah.
And the breakout is, one
We have 245.
yeah, I have 36, one employee at 36 hours and two employees at 62 hours.
Is that up
That-
from this year, or?
That's pretty much what it has been for a number of years.
Okay, so this proposed 10% increase is COLA? Or promotional changes,
Yes,
okay,
that and COLA.
okay. Any other questions on transfer station?
Just a clarification, 10% COLA per employee or over the whole?
That's more than COLA, because the COLA was 2%.
Yeah,
Right.
so where's the other 8%?
One of the employees this year was hired in at a higher rate, if I recall, over
I
what,
believe that is the difference.
yeah, because,
There's three employees, one at 36 hours and two at 62 hours, so there was a slight increase in hours and also an hourly rate. Because of the need of the transfer station, we needed more people up there for more hours.
So it's a threefold thing that.
Correct.
creates
There's
it.
three things affecting that
Yeah.
rate.
All right.
as well as I had to hire a new employee this year, a previous employee left, and I couldn't hire him for less than what I was paying the current employees, because they all basically do exactly the same job. There's no difference. So it wasn't fair to pay them less.
Okay, Mr. Langley's.
Quick question, you said we're paying to, excuse me, dispose of recyclables. What does the per ton cost for just your regular waste run?
The regular waste is going to be 84 a ton this year.
So still a huge savings by breaking down and separating everything and,
Well, if I mix it in, then it would have to go out as regular waste.
okay,
So it's still better to keep it all separated, because it all goes to different vendors.
okay.
Otherwise, we'd have to go to what they call a one-step facility where they do the separation, and that has proven not to be cost-effective.
Okay.
And where we're still incinerating the bulk of our municipal solid waste, because we're involved with the burn plant in Pennacook. We don't want to lose that, because that still is the cheapest alternative. And they're basically at capacity. We're one of the original towns that was involved when the facility was built. Therefore, as long as we stay there, we can't be shut off. But they don't have to take on new towns or anything like that. 2 years ago, we did see a decrease. With a decrease in the economy, waste tonnage went down. So as a byproduct of that, they actually lowered their rate in order to coerce other people to bring them more trash. Because being a waste of energy, they have commitments they have to make as well. They're guaranteeing to produce so much energy. And if they don't have trash to burn, that means they don't have fuel. So that's still basically the best alternative. And other than that, it's all product and moving. Again, some of the costs are not fixed. Fuel costs tend to vary from year to year, month to month, as we all see. The vendors charge us accordingly. They tack on surcharges and so forth. If price of fuel goes up and we have to use it, we have to eat it. So I'm just trying to maintain. We're gonna run very close on our disposal this year. We'll just about max out what we had. So we did beef that up quite a bit. so that hopefully we won't be in a similar situation next year. And again, costs are gonna go up again. My trucking costs are going up, my disposal costs are going up, and at this point in time, I see basically no revenue for recyclables, scrap metals and so forth. The only plus, but transportation is essentially wiping the plus out.
Yeah, Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, and I would just mention, over the years, in conjunction with Rick, the Board of Selectmen certainly between contract years has taken a look at other options, including the one stream, single stream.
That's what I was looking for, single stream.
It just clearly was not going to work out. We had several meetings with Casella to see if they might have something that would put us in a better place. And as Rick has explained it, our best bet is staying with Pennacook, and we've chosen to stay there.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of a transfer station bottom line budget of $268,002, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, 7-0. Mr. Pelletier, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay. That completes the town budget review. I think we'll wait for the final budget, based off of changes today, for our next meeting at December 17th. John, is that all right? You think the changes from tonight? Okay. All right, so moving on to the school budget. So Mr. Langlois, can you maybe take a quick minute and explain kind of what we got here and
I would
our
love to.
our proposed way of getting through this binder?
Okay, so, for a number of years now, we've been providing a binder, like you have in front of you, with our budget. Right on the front page, you're gonna find a table of contents, and basically what everybody's interested in is the operating budget. But we have current contracts, a proposed contract for the paras is in here, we have fund balances. Basically, over the years, we've learned what questions are gonna get asked, and we've gone ahead and placed the answers to all the questions are already inside the binder. Everybody can see it. As we ask questions, we can pull it up, find it, and help work through this in a rather orderly process. So, what I would like to do tonight, if possible, is kind of go over some of the highlights, and I've got some notes I'd like to kind of just go over with everybody. And then we have some staff members here. We have Amber Wheeler, who is the SAU's business administrator, is here. She's able to answer questions, as well as Kristen Withy, the principal. And Nate Oxnard is a board member who was on the negotiating team for the Paris contract. We haven't prepared our warrant articles yet, so the Paris contract will go on the budget as a warrant article with a recommendation from the MBC. But while Mr. Oxnard's here, if we can try to optimize his time and allow him just to review with the MBC the changes from that para contract tonight, I'd like to do that. And then if we can get into the budget, if everybody would like, we can start firing questions away. If there's information we need to get to, bring back, we can try to gather up some questions tonight so that we can have them ready for, responses ready for Tuesday if we don't have everything we need tonight.
So in the interest of, you said you were gonna provide some highlights.
Yep.
Can we provide highlights maybe focused on the para contract and para negotiation?
For everything regarding the para contract, I'm actually gonna turn the mic or the floor over.
Sorry, I thought you were going to just address general highlights from the budget.
So that I have, that I can do the highlights now, and then we can go into the para if you'd like, or we can do the para contract first, if you wanna get that out of the way.
Just to maybe accomplish one thing in the binder tonight, maybe we should do the para contract, and then,
I can go
and then
through
we'll-
budget highlights and everything after that.
then we can go through budget highlights after that.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Oxnard?
And the para contract is Appendix E, it's gonna be towards the back of your binder.
Good evening. Excuse me.
Appendix E. Good evening, Mr. Oxnard.
In a nutshell, the things that we focused on and that this agreement accomplishes is a few things. One, a lot of them are kind of fairly straightforward. One of them is under the category of coordinating and tying up the arrangement to line up with the teachers. The teachers' contract was passed last year. And in that, we adjusted the school year length and the day length, and that kind of language needed also to be cleaned up with the paras. And so that is a number of the red lines that you'll see in here talk about changing hours of the day and changing it from, for instance, on page 1, if you want to look at page 1, we crossed out at least 30 hours per week, and we generalized that to say for the entire school year and the entire school day, just to be more, in case there are other changes in the future over the course of this 4-year contract, that's cleaned up and more consistent with the language of the teachers. And you'll see a number of those changes that fall in that category. Another category of changes would be cleaning up due to legislation or evaluation of the teachers. Additionally, things like travel and chaperoning for field trips. That, again, kind of cleans up the expectations during the day, and it lines it up with what would be expected from, again, changes in legislation over the last several years. The kind of category that has the most significance, I think, to us and to the perhaps the NBC is the cost to this. And as part of that, we're looking at a 4-year contract, and so I could talk about that as well, and some of the financial changes that are in here. So let's see, let's take a look at, are there questions about those first two kind of categories, about kind of consistence with teachers and things like that? I could point out specific ideas if you would like them, or I can answer questions.
Just from my understanding, the change from, specifically on the hours, where it went from 30 hours to what reads to entire school year for entire school day.
Yeah.
I guess what are the, I don't want to say necessarily implications, but why a change like that? And is that pushed from the paraprofessional side? Is that something that we wanted to change?
So part of that came from the state a couple of years ago, and this idea of competency-based education, where the somewhat antiquated idea of seat time, as long as you sit in that seat in the school long enough, then you get to graduate. That's not as valid anymore. And so instead of accounting for students' progress in terms of 180 days to the school year, the state provided leeway and said we could keep track of hours, essentially, and we could start to look at how the students are spending their time in different kinds of accounting techniques. And so that changed last year with the teacher's contract in accordance with changes at the state level and those requirements. This is to change to kind of, so the school day is different this year because of that. And so now going forward with the paras, we needed to clean up that language to be consistent with that.
Just to
as well.
provide, for lack of a better word, some more wiggle room in defining the amount of time a paraprofessional spends with a student.
I mean, from this perspective, they are there for the school day. The
Yeah.
paras are there for the school day, but so it may be that the school day changes.
Right.
So wiggle room, I guess, from our perspective as a board,
Right.
if we, yes, exactly. And so
Okay.
that, right, being less definite in the time.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Bilodeau.
Yes, so is the school year and the school day defined somewhere else?
Ooh, we have defined that in the teacher's contract, is where that's defined.
And there's an MOU for the paras that was done for this.
Yes, thank you. That was part of it. We did do a memorandum of understanding with the paras at the end of last year when we finalized the teacher's contract to make this, and so then we clarified that in here. And so then,
So the MOU's in here as well?
well, no, so that this language on that page 1 clears up the MOU, but I bet that it's in here somewhere where we define what the school day is.
You have
What
follow-ups?
you said when you began,
Yeah.
that you took the definition of the school day as, or 30 hours or something, and you went to the generic school day, school year, which led to my question as to, was it defined somewhere else?
That is defined. And I can't remember if it's defined in this in this document. I would assume it must be defined in this document. I just can't, 'cause I don't know
And
where it is.
Yeah, Mr. English.
so, and partially to add, so last year we made some more significant changes with the teacher's contract. And so those changes, basically, we stopped counting days, which was the historical method that was used for reporting to the state was an accounting of days. So previously, your kids would have a snow day, you'd add a day at the end of the school year. If you had 10 snow days, your kids would be in school up until close to July. It'd be June 20-something, before we'd be letting them out. So with the changes in the contract and the way that worked last year, it did allow us to build, by switching to hours, it allows us to build time in. And we just needed to get both contracts basically to follow the similar language, so that the Paris contract wasn't necessarily driven by a specific set number of days. It was the school year, however that looked, because there is flexibility in the school year as well. In that, if we don't have any snow days, there's going to be 5 additional instructional days. If we have up to 5 snow days, that time is already built into our schedule anyway. So we need to have that room in the language of the contract.
I think that's section 6.6
Yes,
on
thank
page
you, there it
4.
is. I just found it too. 6.6 is where it says it, yes.
Yeah.
Page 4.
I guess it doesn't define a school day, but it defines a school year.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Other questions about those general ideas? Okay, so then going into the cost, there were some, clearly there are going to be some increases in cost, and so those fall into a couple different categories. One is, we can just look at the salary schedule on the back page. For me, it's page 17, it's the last page.
Is that Appendix A wage
Appendix
schedule?
A wage schedule, right.
Okay.
And so you'll see that we we agreed on a 4-year arrangement. And over those 4 years, there is a 1.5% increase to each step value as it goes up. And then as part of the agreement, teachers would earn 1 step, so to speak, for each year of service. So after a year, they would move up from step 1. Let's say a teacher was in step 1 on next year, 2021. The following year, they would be on step 2. And the year after that, they'd be on step 3.
So step 7 would be the highest or most experienced
Right.
para that we have.
There is a little bit of longevity as well. If you look at the next line down there, there's some but that was not changed. It's the same longevity language that's been there since the past agreement. But so then effectively, the paras who've been there for 7 years have kind of maxed out, and do not. They do earn raises, but the raises for them would be at the 1.5% amount.
So that's going left to right on that table. Is
Right.
1.5 between.
Yeah.
At a fixed step value from year to year.
Yeah. Which is a little bit below the COLA, which is around 2. And so as part of our agreement, as part of our discussions, we also talked about the way to value or to emphasize certification in our paras, which is an additional level of training. And so you can see that language on page 7, where it talks about certified stipend.
Before we leave this page, I just had one.
Yeah, Mr. Dill.
How do the steps on 2020, how do they compare to the steps that we're on currently on the 2019?
It's a 1.5% increase from this year.
From this year to next?
Yeah.
Okay, just because we didn't have that in here.
Right.
Okay, you were starting to say something about page 7. Could you?
Yep. So then for being certified, which is again an additional level of training, there is a stipend that an hourly stipend that goes along with that. And it's been, you'll see that in my version, it's a red line. It crossed out at 50 cents per hour, an additional stipend. And we agreed to increase that to 65 cents for the first year, and then to go up to 75 cents for the second, third, and fourth years of the contract. So that does increase so predominantly what we'll see is that a lot, not across the board, but a lot of our senior paraprofessionals are also certified. And so that does end up affecting obviously that part of the salary as well.
What opportunities do we provide for the paraprofessionals to go get certified?
There is a section on professional development, which is
Hey, Jake?
the next page on page 8,
Okay.
10.12. There is this, this is part, additionally, something that we added. It's been reimbursement for $300 per person, as you see there in the beginning of that paragraph under 10.12. But it was, we agreed that, that if there's additional money, that extra $200 per person is not coming out, if there's additional, it's sort of a set aside amount of money, and if it's not used, then that $200 would be also accessible by people who are interested in increasing their training
And
levels.
is this, sorry, I haven't necessarily read the whole thing yet, but is there a initial, can year one paras qualify for 10.12?
Yes,
Um,
I believe so, per person.
And,
Yep.
and that's I see 300 per person, school no more than 5,000. So that's roughly something like 15 paras per year. Is this a lottery system that?
Part of this, in our discussions, we are the impression that we were told that it's not used every year.
Okay,
So I don't know that it gets to,
There's a lot of in-house training as well.
Okay.
They receive, so, then that's not, there's no cost to that.
and the in-house training allow them to earn points or
Hours.
credits towards a certification?
Yeah, they can work towards that, yeah.
Okay,
The other new thing that New Hampshire has added is that to be certified, they have to take the praxis test, which has been a teacher test for many years. So getting certified, there is an increase in what they need to do to be able to do that. So to pay them for the job they're doing and the work that they did to get there is certainly shown in the contract right now.
thank you, Ms. Withy. Mr. Dill?
What percentage of the paras have the certification so that we can kind of add that into the stipend?
I don't have the number, it sounded like around 75, 80. It sounded like the majority.
Yeah, we just talked about that last week.
I think it was around 80%. It was by far, most of them, yeah.
Thank you. How many paras are employed at the school?
It's probably in the operating budget.
50-ish? Right, that's gonna be in Fund 1, right? That's gonna be,
If you want to keep going, I'll dig up an answer for you, or we can dig up an answer if that's helpful.
You usually have the numbers in the operating budget.
Yeah, I just
yeah, that's in Fund 1.
suspect the business administrator is going to have it momentarily.
And a follow-up.
Sure.
Well, we budgeted for 32 paras.
She's
for
fast.
special ed. And I knew that I put in the budget, that's why I put it. And for regular ed, we budgeted for 32 special ed paras. And for regular ed, there were
3, I believe.
5 positions that were budgeted for.
And what's the average, what did you call it, rank or 1 through 7 level? What's the average level of our paras, roughly? I assume 7?
5.7.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah, Mr. Roy, if you,
Thank you. Certification is not required, correct, by the state to work there, but
Correct.
the test is, the praxis test?
If they want to be certified, yes.
So they don't have to take the praxis or be certified if they don't want to? Okay.
Ms. Withy, if possible, if you comment, if you wouldn't mind snagging the microphone?
Sure.
We totally appreciate your input, thank you so much. Mr. Robertson?
Oh, yeah, this contract has essentially been agreed to at this point.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep, so
This will
we
appear
can
as a-
satisfy our curiosity, but it's a done deal.
Understood.
This is a warrant
We're gonna
article
be
that will go
contracted too,
to the
so.
voters. This will be one of our warrant articles this year.
Understood.
So our vote is irrelevant on it, or? is
So
that what
you'll be voting, when we present our warrant articles, the NBC is voting to recommend the warrant article or not recommend the
We
warrant
can,
article.
that's our power with regard to the contract,
It is helpful for us to
to know about it.
know about it, to explain it, and
Absolutely, but
get the 40 people that watch us.
the
400 last week.
the negotiation of the contract is between the school board and the union.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go too far astray, I just didn't want
No, I,
particularly new budget committee members to think that we were gonna maybe go into these lines and move them, so.
no, I appreciate the input, Mr. Robertson. Thank you.
So then, let's see, so we got that part. In exchange, and this is not necessarily, this is something that I think was mutually beneficial. There's language about the healthcare coverage.
I assume that's not an Appendix E?
Appendix, no, Appendix E. Is that this one that I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it. It talks, yes, it is in here.
Couple pages.
Oh, line 14, according, I think, is what I see for health insurance, or page 14.
Page 14.
14 and 15.
Yes, thank you, there it is. And so there are different levels of health insurance that our district offers. And this is across the SAU, and as SAU, we shop around and find the best ones. And so up until now, it's been solely this green number 2, which essentially is a plan that has good coverage, has a low copay, et cetera, et cetera. One of the changes that was made in the teacher's contract last year, and we did follow suit with this, was to add as an option the red plan. The red plan is a lower cost, comparable coverage, good coverage, but higher copay and other prescription costs and things like that. So not ideal for everybody, but it does, because we are paying, we're covering a large portion of the para's cost for that. They are paying some of that. And so if they feel like they want to switch to a red plan to save costs for them, it saves costs for us as well. And it is, prior to this, it was not an option for them. And so now it becomes an option where if they like to save money in that way, and if they're able to, they can take that opportunity.
Mr. Oxnard, is there a such thing as a full-time para and a part-time para? As in,
There is. I don't know if we have any part-time paras.
No,
We don't have
so,
any
so there
part-times.
is such a thing, but we don't have any part-time paras, is what I heard, or what I understood.
Or budgeted for.
No, we do not.
Okay.
Looks like
And-
we're all full-time.
And just for personal curiosity, maybe, is, I would assume that even if you are a part-time para, you would qualify for the red or green plan. These aren't necessarily, I've seen some,
You said part-time, you just misspoke. I'm sorry.
No, you're saying if they're part-time, do they still qualify for coverage?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. Do they?
No.
No, they don't.
No.
Less than 30 hours, they wouldn't qualify.
Well, we went away from the 30-hour definition, which is somewhat what I'm asking the
They're
question.
they're still paid hourly. It's just,
Okay.
it's the definition of hours in the contract. It's the definition of the school day in the contract.
So is there some modification of a definition of a school day in regards to what defines a full-time and part-time para?
It says 30 right there.
Last line, 30 hours per week.
Bargaining unit, working 30 or more hours per week per school year who wish to subscribe. Thank you. You get the question. I retract the question.
Remember, we said the answer to every question is in the binder.
Clearly, yeah. Okay.
One last point is on the warrant, every year when we put in or not every year, but when contracts go in, and this is for 4 years, we have the expected cost lined out. And so these are going to add up to what they will look like. In year 1, on the first line, it'll say 37,821 will be the increase. I don't know if that's in the
So
packet or not.
what page
Is
are
that-
we on?
No, that's not in the packet yet because that's gonna appear in the warrant article. That'll be the tax impact. So if you recall, when you see a contract, or when you've seen our CBAs in the past, it'll say estimated tax impact year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. We haven't finalized the warrant articles yet, so these are gonna be estimates, or what our current estimates are, and it's subject to slight change, but I think Nate has the numbers that he can at least present to you folks if you wanna
I need to jot them down under
jot them down.
columns.
Yes.
Yeah, jot them
So,
down. So for 2020, 2021, what was that number, Mr. Oxnard?
37,821,
37821. For
Yeah.
21, 22?
37,503,
37503. 22, 23?
39497,
And 2324.
11587.
11587?
11,000.
Why?
Correct.
Yeah,
Why? Because as far as we know right now, these are sketched out with current information. Basically, our paras, for the most part, will be at step 7.
All hit max.
So they will hit, so there will be no more increases. Well, there will be some, but not as much.
Smart.
Okay.
Yeah. The longevity, is that paid, how is that paid out? Is that paid out as part of their normal wage, or is that a one-time?
No,
payment
that's
per year?
in their paychecks and their wage.
It's included in their wage.
Okay. And the numbers you just gave us include the longevity and as well as the steps, or just those steps?
Yep, everything.
What's your estimated savings on the healthcare?
Nothing's in writing because nobody has committed to switching to red at this point. So it's kind of like we're hoping, but can't commit to it.
It's potential savings.
Well, I wanted to make sure we weren't banking on potential savings.
Yeah, no, at that point, it would just be potential savings.
Okay.
Okay. So we are not voting on anything here tonight. We have warrant articles that we'll get beginning of January that I think we'll review and vote on.
Yep, so this will be acted on as a warrant article.
Sure.
When we present the articles. As a quick kind of just a note on warrant articles, last board meeting, we had our discussion about warrant articles. At the moment, it looks like we are planning to present 3 articles. There will be the budget, the contract, and then at the moment, it looks like the 3rd article will be some creation of a fund, and wording and everything has yet to be set, but some creation of a fund to possibly start setting aside a portion of our fund balance, if there is one, for future expansion of the facility. Language hasn't been parsed, dollar amounts haven't been parsed, but that is, seems to be the direction the board is leaning in at the moment.
Any more questions for Mr. Oxnard? Well, thank you for the information.
Thank you, Nick.
Pleasure.
Okay.
All right, highlights on school budget.
Highlights, okay. So, at the discretion of the committee, I have notes regarding a bunch of the lines. I have high-level notes regarding what the increases and where a large portion of that comes from. So I might take it out of order a little bit, if that's okay. But what everybody always looks at first, and I do it with the town's budget, I also do it every time I see the school's budget, is I look at total increases. So, this year's budget is $589,064 higher than last year's 1920 voted budget. It's a 4.2% increase.
Could you just give everybody just a minute to kind of?
Get to there?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
why don't we take a quick 2-minute strategic pause here and just look at,
I have line-by-line notes as well that I was gonna go through, but I wanted to just kind of hit the high-level stuff first.
so this is, you're specifically going to go through pages, I guess, 1 through 17-ish, 18-ish?
But the bottom line we're looking at is on 14, or at least that I'm referencing at the moment.
Okay, yeah, oh, sorry, I dug into appendix A. Okay, so, page 14. An increase of 589,064, which
Yep.
is 4.27.
Yes.
All right, let me, just give us just a quick minute, give people the opportunity to maybe just walk through it, scan through it, and then.
Yeah, that's fine. And in here, I guess, just the default budget is also in here, it's column Q. So all that information is presented, the default budget is built into the existing budget for your review.
And the difference from voted FY 1920 is not from default, but what was approved.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep, so that would be basically your increases or decreases
Yeah.
between the current proposed and last year's budget. Everything's color-coded as well, so you can see items that are in orange are the non-discretionary items. Green would be $10,000 decreases. Blue would be $10,000 increases, and the, although labeled as purple but came out more of a pinkish hue, would be the changes that the MDC would be requesting.
all right. Well, why don't we do your highlights?
Okay, so I guess, real quick, in discussing that 4.27% increase, the board spent a lot of time really trying to keep that number down. And we went through a lot of lines, and we had quite a few discussions about it. There's very little additional stuff in this budget. And so we went back and really wanted to see where that increase came from. And so in looking at that, in a nutshell, if we look at that $589,000 increase, last year's warrant article for the CBA added $173,723, which was passed and voted on by the taxpayers. Special education increases, which are some of those non-discretionary items, they're set by law and they will occur. That's $102,871. High school tuition went up by $201,000, and there was a transportation increase of $94,951. That all totals up to $572,000. Basically leaves about $16,000 throughout the budget for tweaks and changes.
What's the high school?
Concord High School.
Well, I know that, but why did it go up $200,000? That seems like a huge jump.
About 10 additional students.
Okay.
Yep.
Since
We
that's
had-
one we can actually ask.
Yeah, we had we had about 10 additional students, and not the salary, the rate actually also went up,
And I
as it
have-
does every year.
Yeah, and so I have a note on that. That is line 32. We're kind of jumping out of order a little bit, but that is 10 additional students. Last year's rate from Concord was $12,646.87 with a capital fee of $496. Next year's rate's going to be $12,925 with a capital fee of $501. We had 176 students last year. We are budgeting for 186 this year. Again, that's all rates and everything are contractual with Concord, so they're beyond our control. It's a mathematical equation.
Are you, so when you predict that you have 10 more students from last year, is that based off historical values and you're just
That
looking at
is-
deltas and matching
that-
line?
That is our current students and our 8th grade class,
Okay,
Subtracting
know-
both.
subtracting out the seniors that are graduating.
right. And I know we have a census coming out next year. Have we looked at kind of what trends in Deerfield are doing for student population? I know this will impact beyond just high school tuitions.
So we have been doing demographic studies and updating the information. It's actually being updated right now. One of the board members, Ken Heckman's been kind of spearheading that.
Yeah.
And so we have seen growth and drop over the years, and the longer term you look. We're, at the moment, one of the larger student bodies that we've had. We will be graduating, our 8th grade class is a smaller 8th grade class. So we will be graduating a small class, and we're anticipating another large kindergarten class coming in, which has been the trend for the last, say, 5 or 6 years. We've been seeing larger classes coming in. So Deerfield seems to be an anomaly. Our school is currently growing, and has been for probably close to 10 years now. you want, I can do I've got line-by-line notes if you want to flip back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'll be referencing line numbers rather than account codes, just line numbers on the left column of the page. And so I think if there's questions,
These are Excel line numbers,
Excel line
and not the
numbers.
.000s or whatever we
correct.
see here,
Which
okay?
And I think if we have questions, if we want to reference those line numbers, I think it's an easy way. Everybody has the same copy of stuff, information in front of them. So, first item is line 12. All right, that includes one additional teacher. So that was, originally, the administration requested 2 additional teachers. They were going to be added to the middle school. Through a significant amount of discussion, the board, in working collaboratively with the administration, came to the determination one teacher would allow the admin to achieve the goal they were trying to get in the middle school, which is to help give the 7th grade more of a definition of their own, as opposed to being, they've been blended into the 8th grade for quite some time, so this is gonna allow them to be more of a separate identity, but we needed additional staff to do that. So the request was for 2, and the board went back in trying to look at ways to help keep costs in line, and the administration feels they can accomplish the goal with 1, so that's what we have budgeted at the moment. We also have a quarter full-time equivalent increase for a wellness position, and this also includes the CBA increases voted on in 1920.
So on line 13, that includes new math? You're proposing to add a math teacher for that line number there?
Yeah.
Okay,
And that would be that middle school math position.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
There's also an additional 20 kids going into 6th grade that are, so the middle school itself is bigger.
Yes.
Right, so although the earlier comment was that 8th grade is getting smaller, we're starting to see increases in class sizes as early, right now at 6th grade. And looking at the kindergarten mapping, they're just getting bigger.
Yeah. And so we're moving a class of 44, is 44 kids in the 8th grade? It's a number that's in my head. 42. We lost 2 kids. I misplaced 2 children. So we're moving 42 kids out of 8th grade, and the 5th grade class is sitting in the high 60s.
5th grade is 74 right now,
So I found the 2 kids.
and there'll be 6th graders.
And how big's the kindergarten class?
We
Please.
have a sheet,
Thanks, Ms.
actually.
You have a sheet for that?
There's an enrollment sheet in the binder, I believe.
Page,
54, I think we're sitting at, or 53 for kindergarten right now. Page 54.
Page 54, and for those who have been on the budget committee for a while will recognize that page. It's one the school board we ask for frequently.
Oh, this is the number of teachers per student.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the number that, obviously this is you have your current class sizes and then your projections in the following column.
Okay, sorry, so I see kindergarten there, total of 52. Is that what I see there?
Yep. Next year's projection is 55, so that total for kindergarten becomes the following year's projection. So that it moves diagonally, basically, from kindergarten 52 goes to 1st grade 52, and then your 1st grade 64 goes to yours.
So if I was to just kind of average those numbers, we're sitting in the mid-50s, and we're graduating somewhere in the low 40s.
42.
Which sounds like roughly a 30% increase in class size between graduates and newcomers,
Yeah.
Yeah,
roughly.
roughly.
And so last year, we did graduate a large class, so we actually saw a slight decrease in the overall enrollment from last year to this year, because we moved a large class out, but now we're gonna be moving a small class out and presumably bringing in another fairly large class, and we should see another spike in, we don't know what the kindergarten numbers look like, and unfortunately, we don't really know our kindergarten numbers until the first day of school sometimes.
Right, I've been told that 55 is the magic number to make 4, so adding that extra teacher, really, we would love to put it in middle school, but inevitably, if our kindergarten numbers go higher than 55, we will be shifting that teacher. We'll have to go to Plan Z for our middle school. Because we want to keep our numbers lower in the younger grades.
Keep what numbers lower?
Our numbers
The-
lower,
the
right now we
ratio
have 3
number.
kindergartens, and next year we could potentially have 3 kindergartens, but if our numbers go above 55, we'll have 4 kindergartens.
Right.
Which eliminates the middle school position to bring down to the kindergarten position. It's a master plan of, we've got Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and what ifs
Okay.
that we're
But
considering.
it seems as though with the growing population now impacting the middle school, right? You're consistently going to have more than 50 kids, at least for the 6 years that we can see here.
Correct.
Does that really eliminate the middle school position or just add a future elementary school position?
That's a good question.
Okay.
That I don't think I have an answer to.
Okay.
Again, the board is always stuck, and we grapple with this every year when we're going through the budget, but we're always stuck between representing the taxpayers and trying to keep costs in check and trying to make sure that every opportunity is there. And, you know, we'd love to have $20 million and allow the administration to just do it all.
Right.
And have a building with, you know, a 50% larger footprint, but we can't have everything all at once.
I agree, but I do think that it's an important note to make that between this class size now and the consistent class sizes from grade 6 and below is a 30% increase, which is huge,
Yeah.
right?
And we're operating in a building that I think the capacity is somewhere in that 470 range, and we're at 540.
We're 534 currently.
Keep
Last
losing-
year we were
keep losing
540.
kids.
Big 8th grade class went up, small
So-
8th grade class.
So we are.
3 portables still.
Yeah, we are perpetually operating over capacity. We have modulars, and that's the first indication in any study as to whether or not you've outgrown your space. And we've been in modulars for 20 years, basically. But that's a different conversation, and we'll probably dig deep into that when we get into the warrant articles and why we're trying to create that third fund. Okay, any questions on that, line 12?
Haven't made it far.
We haven't made it far. Let's see, I can talk faster. Basically, line 17 just includes increases to the substitute rate. We have a hard time finding substitutes, upping the rate, except the SAU has collectively, all the districts in the SAU use the same rate. We are upping it a little bit in an effort to hopefully attract more subs and give ourselves a larger sub pool. Line 19 is a decrease due to personnel changes. Line 28, these are all required services. And so this EL service is a required service. It's prescribed through an IEP. Line 32 is the high school contract. That's the increase in rates in the students that we discussed. 45 is an increase in our electronic software and our licensing to cover the PE, music, and library departments. Let's see here. Line 50 through 93. These are teaching supplies. They were decreased due to one-time expenses for physical education and language arts, and a reduction of for anticipation of less computer parts and software programs needed for next year. If we go to line 96, you can see a lot of the stuff has stayed relatively flat. Line 96 through 111 is instructional equipment. There's an increase due to a request for new band risers, some additional library furniture, upgrading and replacing classroom projectors, and furniture replacement for a classroom we have a rotation we're trying to keep with. Lines 114 through 140 is our special education increases. This is due to the CBA increases and para staff increasing from 29 to 32 members in this budget. The special education costs are anticipated to decrease for summer services and contracted services. Our special placements, which are the out-of-district placements and services at Concord High School, anticipated to have a large increase due to specific student needs, and there is an increase in special ed equipment due to a specific student need as well.
Is that based on current IEPs?
Yeah, so, special education budgets are always driven by the student's IEPs, and it's what's called for in the IEPs is what is budgeted for, and that's all prescribed by law. So,
Right, I was just wondering about the increase, if you
Yeah.
already had the.
yeah, and I will say, we spent, again, the board spent some time talking about the special education lines, and we do have a special education trust fund. Call it it's our insurance policy, and at the moment, that has approximately, I have it right here, $215,086.32 approximately. And so the board talked about maybe pulling some money out of the special education lines with the intent on leaning on the trust fund if we needed to. In a lot of years, when we see a surplus, we see it come from the special education lines because the IEPs change throughout the course of the year and the services that are needed change. We talked about it, we looked at it, and we kind of felt like that was spending your life insurance policy prior to your death. So,
Could be one placement.
yeah, I mean, $200,000 is a placement out of district, and we can be in a world of hurt. And if we have additional needs arise, we have to provide the services, and it can put a hurting on the rest of the budget. So we discussed it, we looked at it, but ultimately we decided it was not the best course of action. All right. Let's see here, lines 158 through 175, those are co-curriculars. There's an increase due to the increase in the enrichment program, athletic director and coaches stipends, and theater performances. The umpires' fees have been increased. There's new equipment needed for the soccer field, and the dues and fees have been increased for athletic events.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Did we ever move this?
Budget? No, but we can. I'd most certainly be willing to.
Because we're line by lining it,
We're discussing it? Yeah.
passing it. I don't think we ever opened it.
If the chairman is comfortable doing that, I have no problem making a motion.
All right, yeah.
So I'd move the proposed 2021 budget for the Deerfield School District in the amount of $14,394,363.
All right, so that's a motion by Zach Langlois for $14,394,363, seconded by Mr. Robertson. All right, back to line roughly 176.
Line roughly 176. All right, so line 179 is an increase in diagnostics for the school psychologist due to, again, student-specific needs. Let's see here, that wipes out that page. I promise we're almost done. I know this isn't fun. Line 178 is a guidance salary increase due to CBA increases. Same applies for 187, the nurse's salary. If we look at line 219, the library instructor increase is due to the retirement of an individual, and the replacement was hired at a higher step than anticipated. There's information we always budget when we're replacing staff for a master's degree, step 5. So this particular position was filled with somebody that was above that step. Line 269, this is our district share of the assessment for Deerfield. This is basically our portion of the SAU budget. Deerfield is 21.2. The SAU budget increased by 0.39%, but the increase for Deerfield is higher because Deerfield is, as far as our SAU is concerned, or as far as our evaluations are concerned, a higher valued town. So it's an increase in the equalized valuation per pupil. Last year, our share was 21% as a reference, so stayed relatively close. Lines 277.
You should call us next year before we do the equalized valuation. We can work on that.
Oh, perfect. All right, lines 277 through 310. Those are the school administrative services. They're again increased due to contractual items such as employee multi-year contracts. And we added, it was a .375 full-time increase for secretaries, and the additional funds added for an OT tech position, which will move from salary to hourly, and then there was also increases in maintenance contracts.
Can you talk about some of the increases in maintenance contracts?
Yes, is there any particular lines that you have?
So in looking at the physical percent increase versus the dollar increase, it's kind of noise, but there's a 30% increase in maintenance contracts, line 293. And I don't know if the 292 talks about it or 294 talks about it.
So if you look on line 294,
Yep.
we do have some notes in there. So that's going to be maintenance agreements for One Call Now, which is our notification system for those of you with students in this. Oh, and I think Amber can jump in if it's.
Oh, yeah.
So we have them listed, as Zach was just mentioning. A big piece of why that went up is because the majority of these programs are per pupil. So if your pupils are increasing, your costs will increase, as well as there's typically a slight increase on some of these programs as well.
So these are, so we had talked earlier about the 30% general population increase, but it seems to have been consistently at around 50. Yeah. So I, at least between first grade and kindergarten, I don't think there was a 30% difference in the pupil increase.
Well, one of the other things that's been added this year that wasn't in there last year is Go Guardian.
Okay,
So that's a new program that's been implemented.
okay,
So that is incorporated in this as well, and we did add that note as well.
okay,
These programs are SAU-wide, and so the cost is defrayed out through all of the schools within the SAU, and it is by per pupil. So you're only paying for the pupils that you have in your building.
okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any additional questions in that section?
Do we have a breakout on those in the book that has everything?
The book is like Google, but it's paper. Right?
Okay.
You ask it a question, there should be an answer inside it. There is I would have to defer to Amber if there's a backup on that. So
For that particular line?
it's just the
No,
notes?
there is not in this budget, but I can get that for you because we do have it.
Yeah, and the notes there are basically what's covered by that being One Call Now, which is the notification system. Alma, which is the student data, MLP, which I cannot recall what that one stands for. Thank you. RenLearn Nurses Software, Go Guardian. Go Guardian is the tool the staff uses to basically help keep students on track. When you have a group of students working on computers, it allows the teacher basically to see what the student is looking at on their screen and at times help redirect the student possibly back to the task. It's been a great tool for the staff. And then server maintenance and a couple of other items. Let's see here. We are right around lines 315 to 341. Those are increases in salary due to summer help and personnel changes, and there's an anticipated reduction in utilities and an increase in contracted services. The utility, one of the anticipations for the reduction in utilities is the building was switched over to LED over the summer last year. Every fixture in the building is now LED. We received offsetting funds from, not Eversource, the other one, Co-op.
Honeywell?
Cooperative.
The electric co-op.
The electric co-op.
Yeah, so we received some offsetting funds from the electric co-op. We're anticipating about a 4-year return on the actual cost of the project, and an estimated savings, which we'll be able to kind of see out next year of about $16,000 a year in electrical costs inside the building, and a much brighter building inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had the report on that for the last 4 years for the town. We had done the same about 4 years ago, and it far exceeded the expectation that we had planned, I think. We're smaller use, but we were around $5,000 a year, and
We're
made a huge difference.
we are excited about it, and obviously it uses it's greener and uses less energy, which obviously is better for everybody. This one should get Alden wound up here. Lines 345 and 357, there's increases in transportation due to changes in student-specific services and contractual increases. This includes 7 buses, which is our current number of buses. We've added additional funds to cover athletic and trips, and athletic transportation, as well as offsetting the cost of the environment camp for the 6th grade.
So, we sat, well, I was sitting where Herman was sitting last year when we
Yeah.
had this discussion. And I think I was sitting over here the year before we had that discussion. And are we ever going to revisit that discussion on the fact that we haven't changed bus routes in 10 years?
So,
Because I have a feeling we've had new students move in and some students graduate in 10 years.
debatable.
Possibly.
So last year, that work was ongoing during the summer. The busing company ran into a shortage of drivers and completely and utterly threw our schedule into a tailspin about a week before school started. Maybe it was 2 weeks before school started. But they came to us and basically said that we did not have, was it 3 of our drivers? We were short 3 drivers, which created a problem that involved potentially not busing the high school students, because by law, we're not required to provide transportation to the high school.
It was a mess, but we have
was a
7
mess.
buses rolling again.
And we got through it.
And we're saving so much money on printing costs, because every year, we're just gonna say the routes are the same that they were the year before.
There is, Chairman Deely had done a lot of work in that and had started the mapping, and I think we'll pick that back up here shortly and try to revisit that. Our busing contractor does a great job, getting our kids safely from point A to point B. They may not necessarily employ all the latest technology to figure out their routing.
To fill in, just because we've had this discussion, we removed 2 buses, I think, 5, 6 years ago?
We removed 1 bus. I think the peak that we had was 8
Moved them
buses.
around.
But, yeah, so we.
Either way, we've got more kids.
Yes,
We have the same amount of buses.
correct. Our utilization for buses, last year we did a study and we're getting about 70% utilization out of the buses, assuming 3 per seat occupancy. So basically what that means is our buses are getting a 2 per seat occupancy, which is an ideal utilization. And the board looked at adding additional buses. Now, we do have buses that are coming in heavier or with more students on them than some of the other buses, and we have buses that are coming in, at 68, 70 students, and we have buses that might be coming in at 40 students, and an ideal number would be 66. But that's when we really decided we wanted to look at routing and try to balance the routing as opposed to just throwing additional buses at it, because a bus has a cost, I believe, Amber might know this, is it about 60,000 a year?
No, a little bit less. It's about 50 to 55,000 a year per
So-
bus.
So it is, this is significant, it is a real cost. We really do hope that we can work with the busing company to optimize the routes and balance the loading on the buses a little bit better, and that's ongoing work.
Do you, I know that you guys clamped utilization of seats as your parameter to optimize. What if you optimize time spent in that seat?
That is, with the geography of our town, it is very difficult to say that some kids will be taking a long bus ride. And if you live on any one of the corners in town, the school is fairly centrally located. But I think we're seeing about 40 minutes-ish, probably on the long end.
And we got 44.
44 in Alden's case. So, and your kids are probably one of the first ones picked up, I would suspect.
There's 5 kids before us.
Okay. So,
They're upwards over 50.
and Alden's coming from as far into the corner of town as you can get, basically. Almost in like Loudon, he's so far away.
Then we drive to the whole road.
I think that it would be, not that this may or may not be the place of the NBC, but I think it would be interesting to see, as part of the study, the geography study, if you clamp the time spent in seat, and then perhaps it's worth looking at a warrant article to add the additional bus cost if the additional 50K might mean a reduction in time by, let's pick 30%, because that seems to be a good number tonight, but it'd be worth clamping that parameter and advertising that to the town through a warrant article.
The other thing is we have staff now directing traffic in the pickups. The people dropping off and picking up have really significantly increased in the last 5 years.
Well, it might go away if we add a bus.
That was kind of what
And we've
what I've been taught.
We've tried to tried to really find a good answer for that. And I don't know that there's a way for us to, we've asked parents, I mean, we did a survey at the beginning of the year, asking parents if they would use a bus, if the buses are quicker or whatnot, and it wasn't a significant quantity. It's something we're well aware of, and it's something we most certainly, we talk about consistently throughout the year. I just don't know what the best solution is without throwing a bunch of money at it, and when we're already faced with a, just shy of a $600,000 increase, another bus is another 10% to that increase. We're really trying to balance a lot of needs and try to serve everybody as best as we can, and it's a struggle, as I'm sure you can all imagine. Any other questions on that before I move on? Okay.
You guys did do a good job with splitting around the after-school bus and the high school bus and figuring in things there.
And we have been yelled at for that multiple times. And that's okay. So lines 361 and 379, those are fringe benefits. So basically you have your increases from the CBA, and you have increases in health insurance of 6.2% and dental at 3.2%, as well as our annual staff increases. And then last one I have a note on is line 392, and that is a transfer to the food services program, and that is to recover the food service program shortage. And that satisfies the notes that I have regarding the budget.
So does that mean you're collecting an extra $27,000?
Means food services has moved in a very positive direction this year, and we're projecting into next year, a very positive direction.
What does moving food in a positive direction mean?
Means, well, let Ms. Wheeler.
We've made some modifications to the food service program, as well as changed some personnel staff. So I think there's some new implementation of new processes and programs, and really looking at what we have on for inventory, who we're buying with, those types of things. So I think the decision-making has changed a bit. There are also, when you come with new personnel, some of those factors for total compensation might change, which also comes into play without.
That's also captured in that line 391?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're moving in the right direction.
Okay. I think that,
Trying to think, I think that wraps up what I have.
Well, if people get a chance to take this home and look at it, they'll
Yeah.
come up with some more.
Yeah. Well, you have a motion on the table, so.
Being optimistic tonight, so. We've done that before.
We have.
are there questions on the school budget?
We're not gonna vote on it, right?
We have.
We have a motion on the
They have a
table
motion
to
and a
vote.
second on the
on it.
table.
Make a
I'm
motion,
not
we
prepared,
table it.
yeah, I'm not ready to vote on it. I'd like to at least look through on it.
Oh,
So is there a motion to table?
I said Brad just made a motion.
I second that motion.
I say motion to table the discussion until next week, 12/17. So that was made by Mr. Briggs and seconded by Mr. Roy. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to table the discussion of approval of the school budget till next week's meeting, 12/17, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimous, so 7-0. All right, so we will open the discussion back up on 12/17.
Is, if I may, is there anything in particular that any of the members would like may be requesting information on? Because ideally, I'd like to be able to have information prepared if there's anything in particular. I think the binder is fairly inclusive, but
Can we funnel questions to the chair
Yeah.
that you could pass on, so then we have them at the meeting?
Yeah, I'm gonna, I guess, we have a a adopted policy that requests made by the NBC should be voted on by the NBC before the request is made to the school board. I'm gonna make a motion in the interest of approving the budget, with the intent of approving the budget, next week, 12/17. That, if it's all right with the board, pass all questions through me. I will pass it to Mr. Langlois. And then, hopefully the school board, that'll give the school board enough time to supply that information, you know, I guess, by next week. So, for lack of a better word, that's my motion.
In agreement?
Okay. I guess we have to second that, discuss it then.
So I guess the second was by Mr. Robertson.
Oh, sure. If you want a formal motion, that's fine. You could have consensus of the group, I think. would be fine.
Unanimous consent, I think probably would.
Okay, if there's general consent by the NBC, then we'll do it that way. Please keep myself and Mr. Dill CC'd, and then we can pass it through to Mr. Langlois would be the.
Well, while we're all sitting at the table, if Jim has something about ride time on that, so that we could see if that's on the school bus issue, because that is one thing we didn't have in there. And I think that's a,
Let me see if I can, yes, I'll place a call to him and see if he's got
excellent.
any data that is shareable, I guess is the best way to put it. You know,
And I think your estimate was closer than mine. When I look back at the budget, I think I'm thinking of like 2 years ago, and I keep forgetting increases are happening. So I think per bus is probably more about 65,000, 67,000 per bus.
Not often told I was right.
I thought I thought I would.
It's an odd
And that's the
circumstance.
contract price, what they charge us to operate each bus?
Yep, what was that?
That's the contract price?
Yeah.
Yep, and that is in here as well. We do
Yeah.
have the transportation contract in here. Just to give you a little bit of background on that, I think we're in the 4th or the 5th year of that contract. Originally, when bids were submitted, we only received one, unfortunately. But when it came in, it was essentially higher than what it is now. I went back, negotiated with them, a 5-year contract, and it basically increased about 4.5% each year. It was more like 8% each year, so they knocked a lot off. But originally, we were asking for only a 3-year contract, and so we moved it to a 5-year contract in order to knock the price down a little bit for us.
Yeah.
Sure, it's definitely cheaper and easier to use than when we owned our own school buses.
Yeah, the board has no interest in
Getting into
in
buses.
maintaining and in staffing school buses at all.
All right, so I think that completes town, the action item there is to review the final town budget line item for next week.
And I'll bring you the preliminary warrant articles as well.
Okay, thank you. I will actually prelim.
If possible, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
because we will have staff here, can we possibly put the school first on the agenda next week so that we can hopefully button stuff up and let the staff go home? I know Miss Wheeler hasn't seen her children in
Like a 7-minute visit plan.
allow Miss Wheeler to go home and see her kids and Miss Withy and whoever else is here it's a long stretch for
Sure.
them.
School budget will go first.
If it's agreeable to you and the rest of the committee.
I think that's generally agreeable. Okay. Okay. So school budget next week, prelim warrant articles, finish up the town business, and then prelim warrant articles for the town. Okay. Great, thank you. Citizens' comments.
I miss you guys. Andrea Hoteling, 1 Lakeview Lane. Tonight was the first I actually looked at any of the detail. I have watched a couple of your videos and also school videos, so I'm a little up to speed. I just had 2 comments of areas that, one that doesn't have any impact, but one that you might be able to do something with. Historically, the manner in which the high school tuition is budgeted is you take out the class that's graduating, you add in the 8th graders. Well, over the last 5 years, that has resulted in an average of $160,000 over budget, average each year. This past year, it was 124,000, 156, 209. And part of that is, I don't think we take into account that some students that graduate from 8th grade don't go on as part of the public school system, perhaps. I don't know if we keep track of that, but there's people that probably go into private schools. I also noticed this year, this just came because I just saw this today, interestingly, we've gone from having 2 students at Co-Brown to having 8, which is a substantial increase over what's been there. I have no idea why all of a sudden we're up to 8. I know there's issues with Concord for some students, so maybe that's part of it. But anyway, if you're looking for a place where there might be a little room to budget less, it might be in high school tuition. And then I just have one comment about the health insurance. I think it's always good that people look for options in health insurance, and I would encourage them every year to look for new options. At one of the school board meetings, I know Mr. Dealey brought up, I think he requested that Amber confirm that if people did stay with the green plan, that they went to the lower percentage. That was part of the negotiated contract, and I don't know if you've looked into that, but I think he asked that you find out that the green plan people went to 74% instead of 75 on the, how it was going to decline each year. And the other interesting thing about that is the plan itself is less expensive. The family coverage for the current year, and I don't know what the future years are, but the green plan was $28,464, the red plan $26,760. In order to encourage people to do that, they said, we'll kick in 80% if you go to the red plan. It'll only be 74% paid by DCS if you stay with the green plan. For every family plan that went in that direction this year, it actually cost DCS an extra $345. 80% of the lower number was bigger than 74% of the green plan. So going out, it certainly will be a savings, but currently it isn't. The paras have a different percentage, and I don't know if there was any change in that since I didn't see the para contract. Are the paras staying at 90 and 80?
There was no change to that.
No change. So the savings there in going from the green plan to the red plan will be to the benefit of the taxpayers as well as the employees. So anyway, just a few comments. Like I said, I don't think there's anything that can be changed there other than to say, maybe there's even less expensive plans that employees would be happy to have. I don't know. When you're talking about, I don't know how a para, with what they make, in order to be on a family plan, their share of the family plan is, the current year is like $5,700. At $15 even an hour, can you afford $5,700 for your share of it? So anyway, again, just an encouragement that perhaps there's other health insurance options that could be looked into, and there might be a little bit of room in the tuition budget. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Hoagland. All right.
Move to adjourn.
All right. I'll give that to Mr. Langlois and a second to Mr. Dill. All right. Have a great night. Next meeting is December 17th, 1900.
Next Tuesday. 8:44, I lose track of what time it is down here in the dungeon.
You just hear the inside of the bag.
I think last week
Oh, thank you.
Somebody put them out for me, the least I can do is pick them up.
That's nice of you.